Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg. Another year has gone by, and thus we have another E3. Will it never end? So, as is tradition, I'm here to do sort of a discussion, I guess, about all the different announcements. I would say overall this year is not going to go down as one of the most memorable. I think a large part of that is for two of the companies, this is like the last year before they go hard on their next console. I think next year we're going to see the PS5 and Project Scarlet in like full detail with launch lineups and all that. Probably both coming out holiday 2020, as is sort of a tradition. And so neither company really wants to like spill the beans that much for their competitor. And so Sony decided to not even show up this year because they don't want to talk at all about PS5. And I guess they felt they didn't need to sort of discuss any of their final, big PS4 games coming out, such as notably The Last of Us 2. It's honestly very strange for such a big game like The Last of Us 2 to not have any presence at an E3. That's a pretty big deal, but I guess they're so confident that it's like you don't need to see this. We don't need to talk about it. It's coming out. It's going to be big. I would feel pretty bummed if it turned out to be a PS5 like launch title. That would sort of piss me off, and I'd be shocked if that's what it ends up being. But it's very strange. I mean, we don't even have a release date for Last of Us 2. And normally when a game does not appear at E3, that means it's not coming out before the next E3. That's usually how something like that works. Like a AAA title. I really don't know what's going on with all of that stuff, but since Sony doesn't have anything to say, I don't have to really talk about them, I guess. But, yeah, overall I think it's not going to be... It's just sort of a somewhat bland year overall. There are highlights, of course, as there always are, but this is not one of those big landmark years. But we have stuff to talk about, so let's get to it. First up was the EA conference, which I did not watch. I didn't even really consider it a real conference. And EA always has, like, some of the most boring shit. So I passed, and I'm okay that I did. Really, the only notable thing that they discussed and showed off was Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, which is the new game from Respawn, who made Titanfall. A lot of people are being very negative on this game now after seeing some footage of it. They're saying the gameplay does not look that exciting. Overall, it doesn't seem to be that special. I don't know. It's hard to say. The game's coming out November 15th. So it's not like this is like an alpha. This is alpha footage, and we're just seeing some very early gameplay. Like, this is probably what it's going to look like upon release. I didn't spend a whole lot of time looking at the footage of it. It did not seem mind-blowing from what I saw. I'll say that. I'll probably end up getting it because it's a single-player Star Wars game. And there aren't that many of those coming out nowadays, shockingly. And you get to play Jedi, you get Force powers, and it's got lightsaber combat. And, it's... Hopefully it's good, but the discussion on the internet seems to be somewhat negative, which is, I guess, often the case. So that was their big title that they talked about and showed off. They also talked about Apex Legends, coming out with some more stuff, another character, some events, a new gun. FIFA, no one cares. Sims 4, Island Living, no one cares about that. Somebody probably does. Battlefield 5, more maps. I like Battlefield 5. I wasn't personally desperate for more maps, but I don't play it that much, so it doesn't... Okay. And then Madden, NFL, blah, blah, blah. And that's pretty much it. That's all there's to say about EA. Let's move on to more interesting stuff. Microsoft. So Microsoft, like I said, they talked about the next Xbox, which does not have an official name. Right now it's just called Project Scarlet, which of course will not be the release title. I can't imagine it's like Project Natal or whatever that was for Kinect. So I don't know what they're going to call the next Xbox. I think that's probably the most interesting thing. Before I watched the conference, my odds of buying the next Xbox were at like 5%. After watching the conference, they're at like 4%. I will say, overall, Microsoft seems to be heading in a better direction than like when Xbox One was coming out. They seem to be realizing that, gaming is what's important. They're not going to become the media center of the home. Like it's not going to happen, and they're realizing that. So they're focusing more on games. And the conference for this year, the last year, maybe a couple of years ago, they've really been going all in on just showing off a lot of games. That's good. And so, hardware-wise, they're talking about a 4 times performance increase over the current generation. I don't know if that's standard for like a console generation to generation. I don't know. I didn't look at any specifics. I guess that's fine. Built-in SSD that's also doubling as virtual RAM, and they're talking about 8K resolution, 120 FPS, ray tracing. I don't really buy any of this, to be honest. 120 FPS, 8K resolution is not feasible. I don't even think my $3,800 computer can do that. I don't think so. So I don't know where they're putting out these numbers. I don't know what they're talking about. I mean, maybe like 8K resolution, like square box that they're rendering on screen at 120 FPS. Maybe that's what they're talking about. I think that's all just gimmicky nonsense. We'll see. They also talked about backwards compatibility. I guess all previous Xbox 360, Xbox One, that'll all be backwards compatible. That's pretty cool, if it's true. I mean, overall, it's going very heavy on tech, which has always been sort of Xbox's MO. But then they're also talking about cloud gaming and stuff like that, which doesn't require any tech. Or, very little tech. Very little hardware. I don't know. I think they're sort of maybe hedging their bets either way. They have the hardware to back up if you just want to play games traditionally, but if you're interested in cloud gaming, why wouldn't you just get a Stadia instead? I don't know. I don't know. A Stadia, that's not a thing, but you wouldn't just look into Google Stadia instead of buying a $600 Xbox or whatever. So the fact that it's all just, look at all our amazing hardware, that for me does not interest me, because all of my hardware money goes into my PC. And so if Microsoft was really going in on exclusive games, which is what Sony does, that would be different. I'd buy PlayStations because Sony puts out exclusive titles you can only play on a PlayStation. I wish everything was just on PC, but that's not the way it is. And so Sony gets my money because of that. Plain and simple. Microsoft, for better or worse, better for me, worse for them, I would say, maybe not. They have now done this thing where pretty much all their titles are on both Xbox and PC. And so I would never pick an Xbox because I can just play all their games on PC. There's nothing exclusive about an Xbox. And so they must do this on purpose, and it works out for them. It's still profitable and all that. But for me personally, I have no interest in buying an Xbox because there's nothing exclusive about it. I'd rather just play on my much more powerful PC. Although if they can do 8K at 120 FPS, I'll throw my computer in the garbage, I guess. And so they announced that as a launch title for the next Xbox, there will be Halo Infinite, which that's not a big shocker. They know that Halos can sell consoles. I don't have much interest in Halo, but even if I was interested in Halo, it would just be on PC. I'm pretty sure. So, whatever. Cyberpunk 2077. This is not anything at all exclusive to Xbox, as far as I'm aware. It's going to be on everything. But I'm very excited about it. And they brought out Keanu Reeves, who is in the game as a character. He plays, I think, a character named Johnny Silverhand, I think is his character name. And so he came out and he entered modern meme culture with the whole breathtaking thing. I'm a big fan of Keanu Reeves, so I was like, wow, that's a very easy way to win E3, I guess. You just bring out Keanu Reeves. The fact that he's in the game, that's fine. I don't care that much about putting celebrities in video games and stuff like that. All I care is if the game is actually good. Keanu Reeves can be in a shitty game, he could be in a good game. It's either way. Hopefully it's good, and it's launching on April 16th, 2020, which is my birthday. Which means that I will be in Japan for when that game comes out. I will be in the real Cyberpunk land, which kind of sucks. I wish they would have moved it back a month or forward a month or whatever, but okay, they didn't really show off much gameplay on stage. They just had like a quick montage. They used to, I guess this is just a bygone era of where they would actually have demos of someone with a controller on stage playing a game. They used to do that. I don't know if I saw that once in any conference. Which is a shame, because that was like a real live look. Now they all just do like pre-cut. I think they just want to avoid all potential mistakes, and they'll show maybe an edited gameplay sequence sometimes. I guess because a lot of like memorable, cringe, funny, embarrassing moments of E3 past, a lot of it would come from live gameplay demos and stuff. So maybe they realize that, but it's Yeah, E3 has lost something, I guess. Gears 5. They showed off, they talked about a bunch of different things, about different modes and blah, blah, blah. I'm not a Gears fan. They also showed off a little bit of the mobile Funko Gears game, which looked terrible. And I was sad because last E3 they showed off, or mentioned, yeah, I think they showed a little bit of like a Gears tactical RPG, or tactical strategy game. They didn't mention that at all. I don't know what's going on with that game, but that was the one I was interested in. So that was a bummer. Xbox Game Pass, Ultimate, blah, blah, blah. I don't care about any of this. I mean, I mean, it must appeal to a certain section of the population to just have a subscription for your Xbox and you can play all sorts of Xbox games. But I don't know. I mean, I'm going in on Stadia, which is funny because I have a very powerful computer. Cloud gaming should really not appeal to me, but I'm getting the Stadia Founders Edition just because it's something really not exactly new, but it's from Google. This is it's about as good of a push for cloud gaming as there ever has been. And the fact that you could just play it, you can play like the new Doom on a phone or something like that with a controller, or just anywhere you have a Chromecast. It's pretty wild. So I'm more interested in paying like a subscription for that than for Xbox Game Pass, but I'm sure it appeals to somebody. They showed off like the most insane like controller trailer I've ever seen in my life for the new Xbox Elite wireless controller. Where like if you own this controller, you become a god of video games, and you can just adjust every micro tension in every little screw. It's just insane. It looks like a good controller, but it's $180, which that's just absurd. And I scoffed at the Switch Pro controller price, but I ended up buying that. But $180, no controller. The only controller that's worth that is like those, like, I don't even remember the name of the game, where it was like you were in like a mech or something, and you had like a whole Steel Battalion or whatever it was called, some sort of battalion game. That big fucking controller, that's worth $180. Anyways, Elden Ring. So this is the new game from Software. We did not see any gameplay, so there's really not much to talk about. This was sort of leaked before E3. I first heard about this from a video by Vadi Vidya. We really have no idea almost anything about the game, other than it's a co-production. I mean, George R.R. Martin is involved in writing it, I guess. If you don't know, he wrote Song of Ice and Fire. It's, I guess, Norse themed. I don't know if that was confirmed as part of like the E3 presentation or anything, or just that was in the leak. But that's what I heard. It was just Norse themed, and it's open world. I think that was mentioned in the leak, is that it was an open world game. I mean, I think FromSoft sort of expanded a little bit more with Sekiro about an open world concept. I mean, that game is much more open as far as like movement and verticality and freedom than, say, Dark Souls. But a full-on open world game, I'm sure they can do it. And I like the Norse theme. And with R.R. Martin involved, it'll probably be pretty dark. So I'm certainly optimistic. And frankly, you know, it's FromSoft. Miyazaki's heading it up. It's probably going to be pretty fucking awesome. So, who knows when that game will come out. I would bet not 2020. I would be shocked. But we'll see. Ori 2. Ori and the Will of the Wisps looks fantastic. Like, really freaking good. That's coming out February 2020. Can't wait to play that. Borderlands 3. Okay, probably going to be okay. Ninja Theory is coming out with a 4v4 brawler. A third-person multiplayer brawler. Focusing on melee combat. Ninja Theory, for me, I think the only game I played from them is Hellblade. Is that what the game is called? The Norse one. That game, I thought the best aspect of that game was the combat. For some reason, I really liked the combat of that game. A lot of people shit on the combat of that game. But I think the fact is they're really known for like really impressive single-player experiences. And so this is wildly different from what they're normally used to. A lot of people were saying that, Microsoft bought out Ninja Theory and now they force them to make some crappy multiplayer brawler. But I think even on stage, the guy was like, yeah, we've been working on this game for a year before Microsoft even came to us. So, I don't know. I don't play that many multiplayer games, so chances are I won't play it, but you never know. Minecraft Dungeons. So this is another game from... I don't even know if Mojang is like a company anymore. If they're just absorbed completely, and it's just Microsoft. But it's another Minecraft game. This has no building whatsoever, from what I understand. It's just an isometric loot-based, although the looting seemed pretty minimalist, dungeon crawler. Up to 4-player co-op. Overall, it seemed too simplistic for my interest. But like many things with friends, it's probably going to be okay. Microsoft announced that they bought out Double Fine Productions, which is Tim Schafer's company. Honestly, I can't imagine that was too expensive of a buyout. Maybe that's mean, but Double Fine has not been knocking things out of the park. And so, of course, with that came Psychonauts 2 gameplay trailer. I've never played Psychonauts. It just does not look appealing to me, and I don't really like platformer games. And so they showed this Psychonauts 2 trailer, and it just did not look appealing to me. I don't know. Maybe I just don't have that childish glee that is required for a Psychonauts game. They showed off a gameplay trailer for the new Battletoads game, which is just the fact that there's a new Battletoads game coming out. It's I feel like that's just a game born from memes. It looks fine. I'm going to mention it here. There are other games where this was also true. I'll mention a couple as we go on, but there seemed to be a big trend throughout multiple conferences of 3-player games. Experiences either designed specifically for 3 people or maxed out at 3 people. I don't know what's up with that. That's, like, never been the case. Like, going back through my childhood stuff, trying to think of 3-player games, it was always either 2 or 4, or, you know, going online and getting 8 or 16 or something. It was always like these even numbers. Having 3 players is just so strange. And, I mean, when you're thinking about, like, a group of friends and just hanging out, I guess 3 is as valid number as 4. But there aren't many 5-player games. And so, yeah, there's just for Battletoads, I guess it makes sense, because I think there are only, like, 3 there's just Rash, Pimple, and Zitz. I don't think there was a 4th one. So I guess for Battletoads, it makes sense as far as the game is concerned. But there's going to be a bunch of games where it's just like, this is a 3-player experience. It's like, where is this coming from? Did they decide that 3 is just like this magical number nowadays? They showed off a whole bunch of indie games. I'm not even going to talk about it. You know, maybe I'll play a few of them when they come out, but who knows. Phantasy Star Online 2 is coming to the West. I mean, there's really only one MMO that most people... Actually, there are 2 MMOs that people care about in the West. And that's Final Fantasy XIV, which I don't really care about, and World of Warcraft Classic. I can't imagine Phantasy Star Online 2 is going to do too well, but you never know. You never know. Maybe it'll... I don't even know if it's a good game or not. I don't know. The Outer Worlds. So I think this is from... Is that from Obsidian? I believe. Yeah, Obsidian. Right. Because they made Fallout New Vegas, and so they're trying to do something similar with the Outer Worlds with their own setting and their own game. Yeah, I mean, overall it seems like Fallout meets Borderlands in a lot of ways. I'll probably end up getting it. Because I wouldn't mind seeing another Fallout-esque game, but, like, not tied to the Fallout setting. And if they can really just stretch themselves out and put out something, a really good first-person RPG, could be good. There was a first-person horror game that in Twitch chat everyone was just like, Outlast, Outlast, Outlast. And then it turned out to be Blair Witch. It's from the studio that made Layers of Fear. It seems overall somewhat similar to Outlast. I probably won't play it. As much as I like the Blair Witch Project, the original film, I'm not a big fan of horror games. But I probably will watch a no commentary playthrough of it, because I like to do that. Spiritfarer. There's a lot of, like, furries and stuff. I don't even know. I think it was like, I don't even know what type of game it was. It was, I don't know. There was a RPG that it was like all like notebook sketches. It looked really, really wild. It was like hard to tell even what the gameplay was like, because I was just so distracted by all these like notebook sketches. Really unique aesthetic, and for like that alone is going to get it a lot of attention. I would hope it actually has a good game aside from that, but you never know. Microsoft Flight Simulator making a comeback, powered by satellite data and Azure AI. It looked really good. I would assume that was not running on an Xbox One. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it's coming to both Xbox One and PC. I would bet we saw it running on a PC. And if it has VR support, that might be something I could check out, because it did look really good. And so just being in a plane, VR, over some really high-res locations, maybe. Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. That was like a really weird thing to see, but okay. Wasteland 3. Wasteland 2 for me was a big disappointment. I played it for like 2 hours and then I never picked it up again. This one looked better. It seemed very goofy. Overall it looked better, so it's going to be worth a look. I mean, I think Wasteland 2 set a low bar, but it must have sold well enough to get a Wasteland 3. Okay. Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga. All 9 films into one game. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, those, as far as I'm concerned, those are not good games. I've never liked any of the Lego games. I mean, it's just not my thing. That's what I mean. Not that they're actually bad. But they're so, like, casual and just not my style. I like stuff like Final Fantasy Tactics and, like, really in-depth RPGs and things. So the Lego game, it's just not going to appeal to me. It's the Skywalker Saga. I really wonder, like, what's going to happen to Star Wars after this 9th film. It's going to be wild. Another Dragon Ball Z game. This was interesting. This was formerly known as, like, Project Z. It's now called Dragon Ball Z Kakarot. It seems to be a single-player action RPG focused just on the Vegeta Saga and the Frieza Saga of Dragon Ball Z. Which, like, this is a blast from the fucking past if that's all it's concerned with. And it's, like, sort of behind-the-back fighting. And if this game is legit and it's solid, that's very exciting. Because there are very few single-player Dragon Ball Z games. 12 Minutes. So this is a sort of a murder mystery based around a time loop. It's a 12-minute time loop, I guess. And you play as a guy trapped in this time loop trying to prevent his wife and him from being murdered or something like that. Very interesting concept. I don't know exactly how it's going to play. Like, they didn't really... it was more like a cinematic than, like, actual gameplay. So... But that's definitely some stuff that I'm interested in. Way to the Woods was like some deer game. I don't like any of that stuff. Dying Light 2. Maybe. I'll put that as a maybe. There was another Lego game as part of, like, Forza Horizon, where you can play as Lego racers. State of Decay 2 has an expansion coming out. I still have yet to play that game, and I probably never will. Tales of Arise. This is the new game in the Tales series from Bandai Namco. Honestly, I think I'll get this one. It looks really good. Like, it looks like a big update. It looks hot. I might actually get it. And so then they talk about... this is not in order of the actual conference. I'm just looking at a summary. But Project xCloud. So this is their cloud gaming stuff. And you're going to be able to turn your Xbox into, like, a data center. So you'll be able to stream games from your Xbox to, like, your phone or your laptop or things like that. Because a big problem that a lot of people have with cloud gaming is distance to data centers and things like that. So being able to turn your Xbox into a server, theoretically, that's pretty good. So much of this cloud gaming stuff is so very nebulous. I think that might have been a pun, I'm not sure. It's just, yeah. That's why I'm interested in Stadia, because it's not that much to just go in and try it out and see how it works. And the thing, they did that test with Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and a lot of people were very pleased with how that worked. And they were, I think they were testing Stadia at E3, and they were saying that the data center was not like at E3. So it was a distant data center that they were using, and people were saying it worked very well. So I don't know. We'll see. Overall, I would give Microsoft's conference a thumbs up, even though I'm not that interested in the next Xbox, and there were a bunch of games that I don't care about. I like the format that Microsoft is going for with their conferences nowadays. It's just game after game after game after game, which is really what E3 should be about. None of this faffing around with concerts and gimmicks and Just Dance and all this bullshit. Just show shit. Their only problem is I feel that they don't ever have enough gameplay to show off. And so it's just like they just want to fill their conference with like 60 games. And so they're like, hey, just throw together some trailer. It doesn't matter. You don't need to show any gameplay. It's okay. No one cares. So they're not on the level of Nintendo yet, but it's still a good effort to just show off and discuss games. Pure games. Okay, moving on. We spent quite a bit of time on Microsoft. They had a lot to talk about. Moving more quickly, onto Bethesda. So the big thing people wanted to hear about is, of course, Elder Scrolls 6. I said you'd be absolutely freaking crazy to expect to hear Elder Scrolls 6 at this E3. I was right. What I thought was going to happen is that they were going to talk about Starfield. I was wrong about that. They did not mention, even in passing, Starfield, which is pretty wild. Like I said, that means probably, well, almost certainly this game is not coming out. If that game's coming out next year, it's like late 2020. And I would not even expect to see that, because we have not seen a second of gameplay. Like, nothing. So, overall, it was not the most interesting of conferences. There was some Doom Eternal stuff, which is great. Super, super, super excited about that game. It's coming out November 22nd, which is great. This year, it's very good. They showed off a bunch of gameplay. It looks great. They're talking about multiplayer, and they talked about a special new multiplayer mode for 3 players. Hey, look at that. Where you have one person playing a Doomslayer and 2 people playing demons who can summon more demons. And so it's sort of a asymmetrical, strategic multiplayer experience. Pretty interesting, but I'm just excited to play the regular single player. Fallout 76, which is one of the biggest jokes in video game history. They realized how big they fucked up, and so they're trying to remedy it piece by piece. And so they announced that they're bringing back NPCs into the Wasteland. That was quick. But yes, for the game that had 0 human NPCs, now there'll be all sorts of them with dialogue trees. And there will be choices, and it's like, hey, this is a Fallout game. They also announced that Fallout 76 will be free to play for everyone from June 10th to 17th, which is right now. I'll still pass. I'm going to still pass. They also announced, as always, for any game that's struggling, Battle Royale, the Nuclear Winter mode. It's a 52-player Battle Royale that has you fleeing from a giant ring of fire that slowly closes in, and there will be one winner. Great. Ghostwire Tokyo. So this announcement was notable for the Japanese lady that presented it, which is now, along with Keanu, a part of many memes. I mean, she was pretty adorable, so it's fine. They didn't show off any gameplay, so there's nothing for me to say. But it's a survival horror, or some type of horror in Tokyo, and there are ghosts. I don't know. Deathloop. Again, no gameplay. This is from Arcane Studios. There's like 2 protagonists. There's like special weird abilities. There's nothing for me to say. Elder Scrolls Blades coming to Nintendo Switch. There's nothing for me to say. I don't know if that interests you, I guess, but Rage 2 getting an expansion already. It just came out, and I mean, it seemed sort of over the top and blah blah blah. Wolfenstein Youngblood looks really cool. It's sort of like a cyberpunk Wolfenstein. It had a Carpenter Brute song in the trailer, although he's not doing the music. They just used it for the trailer. But if the music in the game is anything similar to Carpenter Brute, that's very exciting. Bethesda announced some cloud gaming stuff called Orion. It's an SDK, so this is on the software level, baked into their engine for their games. That's designed to sort of assist cloud gaming services. So, a game with Orion built into it allows for 20% faster streaming per frame and 40% lower bandwidth over not having Orion built in. And should allow for 4K, 60 FPS gameplay, streaming games at max settings. And they brought someone out playing 2016 Doom on like a phone on stage. And it seemed to be running fine. I mean, you know, all these concepts, it's a very exciting concept. Like, in a perfect world, it's like, wow, you can just play any game 4K on just your phone or a laptop or anything. You know, just on your TV. It's a very exciting concept, but there's going to be a lot of hurdles, I think. And I wish the internet industry in America, in the United States, was a little better. Sadly, it's not. So, it's going to be a struggle. But we'll see. A lot of companies are going heavy on it, so they must believe in it. You'd think. Elder Scrolls Online with the Elsewhere expansion. Okay. And there was, I mean, the big thing with the Bethesda conference, if you actually watched it, God, the people in the audience, and overall, it goes for almost every conference that occurred this year. Audience members have become far more rowdy and vocal than they ever have. Because I feel like in past years, like when I was like 15 watching E3, I feel like it was mostly just like journalists and shit. Just like sitting there with their laptops, blogging and, you know, whatever about taking pictures of the conference and stuff. Now it seems like 10% journalists, like 40% shills, and 50% of just, like, completely obnoxious fans. They might also be shills, but some of them, I don't know, to the point of these people are shouting out and cheering, and it disrupts the presenter. Like, where they have to stop speaking, and they, like, let out, like, a nervous chuckle or something, and then before they can continue. It's like, for fuck's sake, just shut up and let them present their shit. Again, I kind of doubt they're shills at that point, because I don't think they'd be instructed to disrupt the presenter. A shill should really just be like really loudly clapping and stuff after every announcement. I can't imagine. I don't know. It's insane. It's insane. It needs to stop. There needs to be some rules. It's ridiculous. Like, you're cheering. These people are shouting and cheering over, like, mobile game announcements and stuff. And, like, stop. I hope they put in some rules or something. Like, drag these people out. It's fine, you know, to have shills there that are really sort of obvious, clapping over everything and stuff. But when you're shouting while a presenter is talking, that goes to the point of being rude. Like, that's beyond anything you should be doing. So, and a lot of people commented on it, and it needs to stop. Commander Keen, I don't care anything about Commander Keen. That was before my time, so I don't have anything to say about that. And Elder Scrolls Legends getting another expansion. I don't care about that. Okay. Moving on to Ubisoft, who traditionally puts on some of the most cringeworthy conferences of all time. I wouldn't say they put on a cringeworthy one, but it was not spectacular. But I guess it was better than they have done. The big announcement, I guess, would be Watch Dogs Legion. This is the third Watch Dogs game, and they've already abandoned numbers, so that's good. The interesting thing about this game is that there's no singular protagonist, which is pretty uncommon for a lot of video games. This game, instead of just allowing you to hack computers and phones and stuff like that, now you can hack people. As you recruit them into this sort of resistance in post-Brexit London. And anybody can be recruited. And I think what this comes down to really is like each person has like one or two notable like statistical differences, or maybe like a special feature. You know, like they showed off in the gameplay as you're like scanning different people. It's like plus, 100% melee damage. It's like, oh, that's exciting. I don't know. Like, I'm not... I mean, a lot of people are talking about, like, the old lady assassin. But what I wonder is, like, how many old lady assassins are in the game? Like, if everyone can be recruited, how much variety could they possibly have in an Ubisoft game? So you're going to have, like, 100 different old lady assassins you can recruit. And they all have minor differences in, like, their appearance and their stats, but they're all voiced by the same old lady. I don't know. I'm not that crazy about it, because Watch Dogs 2 was not that incredible, and just, I don't know. I'll wait for reviews on that one. Ghost Recon Breakpoint. I don't think they showed off any gameplay. I don't think so. They are having a beta coming out. They're having a crossover with Terminator Dark Fate, which is really random. I think. And they brought out John Bernthal to sort of... because he's in the game. And so it's like, oh, well, Microsoft had Keanu Reeves. This is John Bernthal. I'm sorry, John. Keanu wins out here. But to try and even it out a little bit, John came out with his dog. With no explanation whatsoever. And I didn't know this at the time. But he apparently brings that dog everywhere. To like every event he ever does. Because it's a pit bull, and he's like a big advocate for like... for pit bulls, and like they're not evil dogs and stuff like that. So he brings it everywhere, and it's like a really adorable, sweet dog that doesn't do anything. So it's like, hey, look, there's a pit bull. It's not eating people. So it's great. I have nothing against pit bulls. I don't like all dogs. No, I'm fine. I would never own any dog. But it was funny. He's just like, this is the dog. This is Bam Bam, and then he's like, and then he goes into a spiel, and I think everyone thought like the dog was in the game or something, and it's just, no, it's just a dog that's there. And so everyone likes dogs. It still doesn't beat Keanu, but it was good. It was good. Moving on. Division 2 has some more content coming out, to the surprise of no one. Roller Champions, which is like some discount Rocket League, I guess. I don't know. Rainbow Six Quarantine. This is a PvE co-op game featuring 3 players in a fight against like infected monsters. This fucking 3-player, I just can't explain it, but I don't know. We didn't see any gameplay, I guess, so I'm sure it's like a Rainbow Six game, but you're shooting zombies. Tom Clancy's Elite Squad is a mobile game. It's a mobile RPG. It's the first time we've seen Sam Fisher in years. It's really lame. Nothing else to say. Uplay Plus is Ubisoft subscription service for $14.99 a month. Get access to a bunch of Ubisoft games. Oh boy. It's also going to be available with Google Stadia. So I don't know. I don't know how that's all going to work. I'm not going to pay an extra $15 a month with Stadia just to play some old Ubisoft games, but I don't know. Then Rob McElhenney came out, who plays Mac on Always Sunny, which was very odd, and he announced something that was not a video game. Not the Always Sunny video game that we always want. He's making a new TV show for Netflix called Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet. This show really should have just been called Mythic Quest, and I don't understand why it's not. It's a terrible title. I mean, the show is about like this video game company that is responsible for making the biggest MMO of all time, and they're coming out with a new expansion called Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet. I get that. This show still should have been called Mythic Quest. Because what if the show is really successful? And then you realize on like the 3rd season that, you know, what if we move on from talking about Raven's Banquet and we want to do like another expansion? Oh, well, the show's called Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet. Like, just call it fucking Mythic Quest. I don't understand. It's ridiculous. I don't know who makes these decisions. So it's got some people from Always Sunny involved in making it. Like, Charlie Day is like producing it, or he's developing it, but he didn't seem to be starring in it. The only one that's starring in it is McElhenney. I don't know. The little thing they showed off did not seem that funny. And it's being developed for Apple TV, which is sort of a death knell. Did I say Netflix? I don't know where I got Netflix from. I think that was something else is coming out to Netflix. This was Apple TV. It's terrible. Gods and Monsters then. This is how they ended their conference. Normally, Ubisoft ends their conference with like a big reveal, like usually some fabricated gameplay that is going to be downgraded later to get you hyped. Normally, like, it's a big thing. Whenever Yves Guillemot appears on stage, it's a big announcement. This, it was really, no. Like, it was like a very short trailer for some cutesy looking game, and then it immediately ended and it cut to like some esports thing, and it was just like, oh, the conference is over, I guess. It was really strange. Apparently this is going to be like a Greek mythology type game reminiscent of Breath of the Wild, I guess. It's from the people that made Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which very recently came out. So I think their explanation for like how they could turn around so quickly is like, well, we've spent, so many years working on all our tools, and so it's like, okay, it's still, I mean, that's no, I don't know. Again, there's no gameplay, there's nothing really to say. But I was really, just really hoping that they would drop a new Splinter Cell. Even just like a 5-second teaser, just to let me know that they know it exists. There's really no excuse that there hasn't been another Splinter Cell since, God, what even was the last one? Was that Conviction? I don't know. Whatever the last full Splinter Cell game was, I played the shit out of it. I loved it. And it's a damn shame there isn't a new one. What else? Just Dance 2020. It's coming out. It's coming out for the original Wii, which you laugh at, but apparently it's because the Wii is still used in a lot of like hospitals, like children's hospitals and stuff like that. And like Just Dance is apparently very popular for children's hospitals and stuff. So I guess that's good. It's just so wild to see a game coming out for the original Wii still. Hell of a console, I guess. Alright, I guess that's it for Ubisoft. If they had dropped a Splinter Cell teaser, that would have been just amazing. As it is, it was okay, but just so little gameplay that they showed off. It's just, ugh. Moving on to a much better conference, I thought. Some disagree, but Square Enix. So the big thing, there were two big things at the Square Enix conference. One was Final Fantasy VII Remake. The other was Marvel's Avengers. One of those I'm much more excited about. And that is the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Which is odd, because Final Fantasy VII is not one of my favorite Final Fantasies, although it's good. And I'm a big fan of, Marvel Comics, the Avengers, MCU, all that stuff. I would have thought I would be much more excited about the Avengers, but what they showed off, I think, lost a lot of people, or lost excitement for a lot of people. It's insane. You have on the tails of Avengers Endgame, you have a big budget AAA Avengers video game coming out. This should be like the biggest thing in video gaming. Like, there should be so much money thrown at this, and just like, this is a way to print money if you have some amazing Avengers game come out. But it does not look like a game that's going to print money. Maybe it will, partly because it's going to be a live service game like Destiny or Anthem or something like that. So it's designed to just keep people playing and keep sucking money out of them, blah, blah, blah. But graphically, it looks like a movie tie-in, which we don't get that many of anymore. Like PS2 era and stuff like that. But if you took like a PS2 era movie tie-in video game and brought it into the PS4 days, seems like what it would be like. All the characters look sort of doughy, and like it's clear that they don't have the licenses for the actors in the MCU, so they just all look off. I mean, it's ridiculous to expect the MCU voice actors to be in the game. I mean, that would be an absurd amount of money. And they did sort of go for an all-star cast of voice actors, I guess. They have Nolan North, they have Travis Willingham, they have Laura Bailey, Troy Baker. But the problem is, we're so ingrained with the MCU now. None of these people sound like the MCU counterparts. And a lot of people were saying, like, why didn't they just get the voice actors from, like, some of the animated shows and stuff like that? But it's like, nope, star power in the voice acting world. So I'm not excited about how it looks visually. I'm not excited about the live service aspect, but I'm still probably going to get the game for one reason, and that's because you can play as the Hulk. There are not many experiences in this day and age where you get to play as the Hulk. So they've sort of tied my hands. I just wish I wish I was a lot more excited about it. But overall, a lot of feedback seems to be pretty negative. So that's coming out May 2020. The Final Fantasy VII Remake, though, I am pretty excited about. We got our first look at Tifa, which blew some people's minds. It's so funny that they were holding off so long to show off Tifa. Like, they revealed the release date before they showed Tifa. I think it's unlikely that this remake will surpass the original for me. And I don't even love the original that much, but it's just the fact of it going from turn-based RPG to action RPG. But they did... They have this sort of ATB system where you can completely, pretty much pause combat to issue commands to different characters and stuff like that. So that's good. That's better than like Final Fantasy 15 was. Like, it actually seems like you do pretty much have full control over every character, just not necessarily always at the same time like you would in a turn-based RPG. I think what it is, it's just like... When I was talking about Final Fantasy 15, I was talking about, like, Titan in that game. And I said, like, you know, when they made Final Fantasy 4, they put Titan in that game to the best of their technological ability. But, you know, if they had the technological ability of Final Fantasy 15 at the time, that's what Titan would look like. You know, just way more massive and menacing and impressive. When they made Final Fantasy VII, they made it to the best of their ability. And it visually and all that, it looked like how best they could. Now, they have, you know, much better technology. This is what Final Fantasy VII... This is what their vision of Final Fantasy VII should be. The combat would be very frenetic and exciting. You wouldn't just stand there and, you know, do this. Whether or not you prefer either style of gameplay, it's true, I think, that the Final Fantasy VII Remake is sort of a better vision of how they picture this story playing out. You know. Because, I mean, you know, you have Cloud, like, jumping around and swinging his sword in the game, you know, in the gameplay and stuff, in combat and stuff like that. It's not just someone standing there with a sword and waiting for their turn. When you're playing a game like the original Final Fantasy VII or whatever, maybe your mind's eye pictures a very frenetic combat or whatever, and all these different, you know, the different, like, cutscenes that they have. That aren't very impressive nowadays and stuff like that. But I think the remake is going to be a much better representation of how this story plays out. So, if I look at it from that perspective, and I really think of it as like... I think of it as like Final Fantasy 16, but it happens to have the same story as Final Fantasy 7. If I look at it that way, I'm much more excited about it. Because I do like the story of Final Fantasy VII. And this will probably be a good game. It's just, it's not Final Fantasy VII. There's only one Final Fantasy VII. It came out years ago. This is just a new game that happens to have the same characters and plot of Final Fantasy VII. So I'm pretty excited about it. I liked a lot of stuff that I saw. The only thing that I'm worried about is the fact that this game they're coming out with on March 3rd, 2020, it is only up through Midgar. Which, in Final Fantasy VII, Midgar is like 10 or 15% of the full game. They're saying that this game they're coming out with in March is the length of a full Final Fantasy game. That, to me, says that there's going to be a fuckload of padding. Like, everything is going to be drawn out. And I heard already from, like, some reports and stuff like that, like, even minor characters like Jessie, who in the original game had like a few lines of dialogue. Now she has like 30 minutes of dialogue. Stuff like that. So I think there's just going to be a lot more... There's just going to be a lot of padding. I think they know how big of a deal this is and how much money they can make, and they're going to drag it the fuck out. If this is one game and it's like 10% of the original game, how many Final Fantasy VII Remake parts are we going to get? There was no mention, really, of that this was like Final Fantasy VII Remake Episode 1 or anything like that. They did say originally it was going to be episodic. I just don't know what they're going to call this. I don't know what they're charging. But I do know what they're charging. They're charging full price. And they have no word on like when the next part is coming. So it's not going to be... It's crazy. There's so little of the plot in this game. If this was 25% of the original game or something, then you could be like, okay, well, that's pretty. Then maybe it'll just be like, then it'll be like proper episodic, and you'll just download the extra parts as they come out or something like that. But 10% just through Midgar, it's crazy. I'm excited, but holy shit, does it seem like they're milking this? Because it might be till like 2027 when we actually get the full Final Fantasy VII Remake. That's nuts. Alright, I actually have to go pretty soon, so I'm going to try to hurry this up. Outriders, this was from People Can Fly, who made Bulletstorm. This is a new co-op survival game for 3 players. Final Fantasy VIII Remastered. Honestly, it did not look that much better than the current version on PC. The fact that it's coming to PS4, Xbox One, and Switch is new. So that's fine. It did look fine. But PC already has a pretty fine version. The remastered is coming to PC. But I don't know if it would... I don't think it's worth it if you already own Final Fantasy VIII on PC. Yeah, so I'm not going to get that. It's not very exciting. Truth be told, I would love to see a Final Fantasy VIII remake like they're doing with Final Fantasy VII, with like updated gameplay mechanisms and stuff like that, but having the same plot and characters of Final Fantasy VIII. I think that would be really, really cool. The only problem is there would be even more squall. But that would be pretty cool if they someday do that. But I don't know if they would ever do that. Maybe. I don't think it's that popular. Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles Remastered. Holy shit! Now that's pretty cool news. I've never played Crystal Chronicles, but I always wanted to, but it was so difficult because you had to have the Game Boy Advances and shit. But it's coming to PS4, Switch, and mobile. So I'm worried that it's going to be a bit too downgraded to fit on mobile, and so the console versions are going to suffer, but maybe not. But Crystal Chronicles on Switch, nice. What else? Dragon Quest XI Echoes of an Elusive Age S Definitive Edition. The only reason that I mention this, it's coming to Switch. It has a retro graphics option. I guess this was already discussed, but they showed it off, and holy shit, it looks legit. Like, I'm excited. They showed off like the normal gameplay of the 3D stuff, and I'm like, who cares? But that retro? Yes, please. So when I do all my Dragon Quest playthroughs, of which I'm on 3 right now, when we get to 11, I can play that one with the retro option. It's going to be hot. Romancing Saga 3 will look like another great retro turn-based RPG. That's coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, PC, and PS Vita. It looked good. That's pretty much it. Overall, I was pretty happy with Square Enix's conference. It was almost entirely remakes and re-releases and things like that, remastered. But I'm okay with that. They have a lot of remastering work to do, to be honest. And they've not always done great with their remasters. So when they show off some good remastering and remakes and stuff, it's exciting. I wish Avengers looked better, but c'est la vie. We'll have to see more as we approach the release date. You get to play as Hulk. I mean, that's a big deal. Yeah. All right. Finally, Nintendo. As usual, I did not actually watch this conference or this stream. They always do it earlier in the morning. And then I just read the announcements and I never feel the urge to watch it. But Assassin's Crossing New Horizon. No, Animal Crossing New Horizon delayed again to 2020. Or maybe it was the first delay. I always assume it's multiple delays. But it's March 20th, 2020. I'm excited. I think that'll probably be a pretty big deal, pretty big game. I'm hoping there's some really cool like multiplayer features going on. Because I think this will probably be like the first Animal Crossing game where a bunch of like my friends are all playing at the same time. So yeah, hopefully that's good. They announced that a sequel to Breath of the Wild is in development. Probably shocking some people, although they shouldn't be shocked. Like, Breath of the Wild was a massive success. And they have the framework easily to make a sequel. It'd be stupid of them not to make a sequel. I think some people are thrown off because Zelda does not normally get sequels, but in modern day, Nintendo has been much more open about doing sequels. So I'm very happy about this. As you know, Breath of the Wild is ranked very high on my list of Zeldas. It returned my faith to Nintendo. So I'm very excited to hear about a sequel rather than like, hey, we're going to make another Zelda. It's going back to the traditional formula. The fact that it's a sequel means it's going to be probably pretty close to Breath of the Wild. I don't think they're going to tinker too much. I think some people want more traditional dungeons, and I wouldn't be shocked if there are some more traditional dungeons. But as long as there's still a big open world, I'm going to be pretty happy. Some Smash characters. I don't care. You probably care. Luigi's Mansion 3. I've never played a Luigi's Mansion. It's not the type of game that appeals to me. If the game doesn't have statistics, my interest dips down a little bit. I think that's just a proven fact at this point. Yeah, I don't know. I probably won't get it, but... Pokemon Sword and Shield. This is coming out November 15th. I am planning on getting this. And let me just say, if you're getting Pokemon Shield instead of Pokemon Sword, I think less of you. I just... How can you compare a sword to a shield? Sword is always going to be better. If you don't have a shield, but you have a sword, you can still kick some ass. If you just have a shield... I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. And, like, they have, like, the two wolves or whatever, the Pokemon, and one has, like, a shield for a face, and one has a sword in its mouth, like fucking Sif. Come on. So, I'm planning on getting Pokemon Sword. Hopefully it's good. I haven't played a Pokemon game. The last, like, new Pokemon game I played was Pokemon Gold. And I played it for, like, an hour. And I was like, these aren't the regular Pokemon I'm used to. And then I didn't play it again. And I know I'm going to have that problem with Pokemon Sword. Multiplied by like 5 times. But it's got that Pokemon with the wolf with the sword in its mouth. And so that's pretty cool. Link's Awakening remake. This is not a new announcement, but they showed off some gameplay. I still don't love the graphics, but I'll probably end up getting it just because I think Link's Awakening is a great game. Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance Tactics. The full title of this game is Jim Henson's The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance Tactics. Okay. It's a tactical, turn-based RPG, which normally I'm very excited about. I did not like the graphics, the visuals, but I didn't like the visuals for Fell Seal at first either, and that turned out to be a great game. The problem is, I can't imagine this is going to be a super in-depth tactical RPG based on a Jim Henson movie. It seems unlikely, but maybe. I'll give it a maybe. Some Contra stuff. The biggest excitement, the most exciting thing for me was Collection of Mana. This was a Japanese-only title until now. They brought it to the West. So this is Final Fantasy Adventure, Secret of Mana, and Seiken Densetsu 3, which they have now renamed to Trials of Mana. So it's a collection of all three games in their original forms on the Switch. Digitally, it released yesterday. I bought it immediately. I've been playing Final Fantasy Adventure. It's actually a pretty decent game. That's been really good. I'm going to play through all three of them. Super excited. I've never played Seiken Densetsu 3 because I just never emulated it. Super excited to play it in English for the first time. It's going to be awesome. They're also remaking Seiken Densetsu 3 as Trials of Mana. They're doing a full 3D remake. And a lot of people were really hesitant after the Secret of Mana remake, but they've showed off new footage now of Trials of Mana. It looks pretty legit. It looks pretty... I'm probably going to get it. I wish they had done Secret of Mana that way. It would not be... I'd probably still prefer the original Secret of Mana, but it's a lot better than what they did with Secret of Mana. No More Heroes 3. Witcher 3 Complete Edition coming to Switch. Resident Evil 5 and 6 coming to Switch. Demon Ex Machina. Panzer Dragoon. Astral Chain. Empire of Sin. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. Cadence of Hyrule. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff always that Nintendo shows off that I don't care about. But in recent years, I pretty much always have to hand them, like, the win for E3. They always just do it properly now. There's practically nothing to ever complain about their presentations. It's always just game after game after game, almost always showing gameplay. And it's generally very exciting to practically everyone for some reason or another. There's almost always they show off something that is exciting to me, and I'm not a big Nintendo fanboy. But you're dropping Collection of Mana that day, that's, I mean, come on, thumbs up for that shit. So, yeah, for this year, again, I'd probably give the win to Nintendo. I might have given it last year to Sony. And it's possible Sony could have had a conference this year that could have won. But I think it's pretty fair to say most people would agree Nintendo won this year again. Even though they certainly could have had a much more impressive conference. And to be perfectly honest, I actually expected them to have a more impressive conference because they're in the prime time for the Switch. And Microsoft, Sony are at the end of a cycle. I expected to see... I mean, they just, scrapped Metroid Prime 4 and, restarted it, so I guess they don't have anything. People are Mario'd out, and there's nothing to show for Odyssey 2. The fact that there was the Breath of the Wild 2 announcement, that was pretty big, I guess. So overall, I wouldn't say it's going to be a big, memorable year in the future. Not many people are going to talk about E3 2019. There were some low points, there were some boring points as always. There wasn't that many, cringe moments. I think most companies are really trying to cut down on that now. And just show off gameplay trailers, because that's all we really want. But we got Keanu Reeves. That's awesome. We got that dog. And we got a bunch of Final Fantasy VII Remake stuff. And yeah, I mean, I think next year is going to be a big fucking year for E3, because you're probably going to have 2 console announcements and discussions and stuff like that. It's going to be pretty big. But yeah, it was a fine year. Fine year, nothing too special, nothing too bad, just an average year. Plenty of stuff to be excited about, and that's not even talking about the stuff Sony's coming out with, Last of Us 2, Ghosts of Tsushima, and things like that, but I guess that's about it. So, let me know what you thought about E3 this year. Let me know how quickly you bought Collection of Mana on the Switch, stuff like that. My name is Mangg. This has been my discussion of E3 2019. I'll see you fine folks around.